please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Joe, I think we could find a little spackle around here.
One of those dark spackles.
All right. Everybody's seen the agenda? Any alterations or changes to the agenda? I did see the copy that was in our packet. We had public comments following the general manager's report. I don't know if you all noticed that. I think it was just usually we do one at the beginning and one at the end, so I'd like to make that one amendment if that's okay with everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was just left in from the typo. Other than that, are there any other things anybody sees? Everybody okay with the agenda?
Yeah.
All right, I'll open it up with public comments. Do we have anybody here who'd like to make any public comments before we start? No?
Yeah, let me go ahead and do that, so you don't.
Okay, sure.
Your business.
Sure.
Just give me a second. This is my high-tech PowerPoint.
Gotcha. Mr. Kessler, if you'll state your name and property, please.
Bob Kessler, 9 Dockside Court, and I paid my dues this morning, so I'm eligible to speak.
For next year.
For next year.
Thank you.
For next year. You have to collect last year's.
I have particular interest in knowing which year you're paying.
I have some comments I'd like to make about an article that appeared in the Progress this week that talked about that the directors are sincere in their efforts to combat golf deficits, which I totally agree with. It's a very good article, except for what I thought were some unfounded attacks on golfers with a lot of misleading and inaccurate information. And I want to address 3 of the issues that were noted in that article. And let me read you what the 3 statements are that were in there that I want to talk about. The article states that golfers are so powerful they can even influence the distorted reporting of membership data that paints a somewhat rosier scenario for golf than is justified. Also, it states that golfers for years have had an inordinate influence on OPA budgetary policies as it relates to golf policies and rate structures. It also reports that Marty Clark recently disclosed a heretofore unreported factoid about Ocean Pines Golf. Prepaid annual memberships have hit a historic low of 263 in the current fiscal year, lower than the number cited in recent board discussions. Well, my first response when I read that was, these are just pure hogwash. And hopefully you've already reached that conclusion before I have to give you my opinions on it. Golfers are the easiest target to address and blame in these days when our amenities are having problems. Notice that in this article and things that you read on the forum, other venues, and even in discussing golf with residents of the community, golf becomes very personal. Golfers are attacked rather than golf discussed as the problem. When you talk about yacht club deficits, I don't think I've ever read or heard anywhere that the patrons are to blame for the deficit that exists at the golf club. So first I want to address the golfers are so powerful that they control reporting. We know what the bottom line is that determines whether golf is successful or not. It's the financial report. Marty told me numerous times when I'd come up and discuss a lot of the golf data that I collect. What would he say? That interesting.
But what's the bottom line?
What's the bottom line?
Let him talk.
Are we making money or are we not making money?
Pete, if I get to where I'm interrupting anybody, then you just get up and punch me, and otherwise, shut up. Go ahead.
Member and membership numbers are important only as a measure of where you've been from year to year. So looking at the history, I only went back to '04, I had it back to 2000 because I couldn't make the chart much longer. I had to put two pieces of paper together to start with. But when you look at golf memberships versus golf member numbers for these years, as long as you're consistent in using one or the other, there's nothing misleading. They're both correct.
Bob, can I ask a question?
Yes.
What do you define as a membership versus a members?
When you set up your rate structures, you develop memberships. You can either buy an individual or a family. It's basically individual, family, junior, associate. Those are your memberships.
Okay. And what are the members?
That's a combination of all the people associated with the memberships also.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure. Okay.
So, well, to answer that question, for example, if you look at this year that's in question now, 263 memberships, 332 members. So you say, how many family memberships did you have in this year? The way you find that answer is subtract the two, that tells you. Because families are 2 for 1. Where a lot of the problems came in several years ago when I asked Art, and I may have been the person that influenced the reporting of members' numbers versus memberships, is when we transitioned from family memberships in '04 to no family and only individual memberships in '05, '06, and '07. In '08, when you start reporting, look, if you're talking about memberships, you took one heck of a hit here without knowing and explaining why that happened. That looks as if you really lost considerable numbers. If you look at the member line, you still lost. You still have a problem. Membership is a problem no matter which line you want to look at and use. The second thing was, in the article, was that the board of directors had inordinate influence over the budget and rate structures. From where I sat these last few years and looking at golf data for the last 2 or 3 years and doing analysis that I do, I've come to the conclusion that the board of directors and the general manager control the golf budget and the rates, not the golfers. Golfer influence is minimal at best. The majority of the board, and some of them are here tonight, have been on the board for at least 3 years. So, for those that have been here for that period of time, if you have allowed the golfers to control the way you vote on the golf budget, raise your hand. Objection, Your Honor. Okay, withdrawn. I won't ask you again how many times, or have you stopped kicking your dog yet? I didn't vote in last month's budget, but I think you did for this next year, and I don't think I had any influence over that budget. And at this point in time, I'd like to throw in just a little disclaimer. I'm not a member of the Board of Golf Governors, and nor have I ever been. I'm looking at this just as an individual Ocean Pines resident who enjoys playing golf here. And the final statement from there that I'd like to address is the one that was heretofore unreported number of 263. As if there's some sinister plot that this number was specifically withheld from people, and this number is used. There's no plot. There's nothing magical about any of these numbers. This number has been shown since the middle of May when you get your amenities membership information. It's been discussed at your board meetings time to time. Do you remember it? Probably not, because for most of us, it's not an important number. Also, the other membership data is available online with your budget scenario, budget history. Numbers are available, they're not hidden, and I don't know why it was recently disclosed hereto unreported. I don't know where it was unreported. It's been reported plenty of times in board of directors meetings and online. So, the question gets to be then at the end, for the end of this, what do you report for 211? I think the answer is still both. I think they're both meaningful and they're both useful. As long as you don't jump from one line to the next, use this number in one context and this number, you haven't confused anyone. Well, at least I don't think you have. I think at this point in time, in conclusion, that we're probably far enough from the 05, 06, 07, when memberships and member numbers were the same because you didn't have family memberships, that you might be able to say, all right, let's not report members. Let's only report memberships and track that from here on out. But if you want to go back and look at these numbers without understanding that further back in history, it's just going to be more confusing without some explanation. Well, if it's something that needs to be tackled and addressed, I think the board ought to address it. If you think I've just overreacted too much, and perhaps I have, because I get a little frustrated sometimes when I look at these numbers and try to explain them, and we can say, no harm, no foul, sit down, let's move on. There's no problem here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Mr. Reynolds,
Yeah,
state your name and where you live,
Joe
sir.
Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. My friend Tom Stouse doesn't need any defense from me, but in regard to the charge that we just made about the Gulf governors not having undue influence, I mean, I've sat through all these meetings, too many of them. I would tend to agree in the last couple of years that you're correct that I don't think the Gulf governors have had as much influence as in the past. But I will say this, that the current setup in terms of membership fees and the way we charge for golf has been carried on now for a few years since a big meeting that the Gulf governors had over at the country club, and I have video of it, where I think it was Jim Beisler was the chairman of the Gulf governors, made a big presentation about what we should do, what we should charge, what we should do going forward. And the board and the general manager at the time, or the practical manager, simply accepted what they recommended. Now, there's been no major change since then. So I would say that in the sense that what we have now is a direct result of what the Board of Gulf Governors recommended, that their influence is if not, if they didn't influence this year's or last year's, this year's and last year's numbers and membership numbers are a direct result of their recommendation a few years ago. That makes any sense?
No, I think if we want to do this, this is not the right place to.
No, that's not. Any other, but thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Any other public comments? Yes, sir.
Tom Stouse, 127 Nottingham. Are there any, just for whatever it's worth, are there any numbers on the number of resident golfers in Ocean Pines who are not members of the association, or who have not purchased annual memberships? How many folks, in fact, do have played rounds? I know, Pete, you've made reference to that on occasion, and I'm just wondering if there are any hard numbers, because I think that number added to memberships kind of could, in fact, together paint a picture as just how much usage there is of the golf course by Pines residents and property owners.
I don't have an answer for that right now, but this is just really public. Well, Okay, you have the answer, Pete?
No, but I have an answer. If I
Go
may.
ahead. Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
No, I agree with you. That's an awfully important number. And I have more recently tried to develop that, and Tom Olson, we're working with the golf staff. The best I can tell you is the preliminary indication that the rounds are this past year were in excess of 3,000 rounds by Ocean Pines residents who are not members of the Golf Association, rounds of golf.
Right.
We don't know exactly how many people those are, and that there are efforts underway to determine that number, because I think it is an important number. And you've heard me make reference to it, that's why you mentioned my name, right? So we're trying to figure that out, all right? But we don't have the ultimate answer yet.
You're working on it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, but it's an important question and piece of information. Bob, I'd just like to draw one other attention. Bob Kessler had a number up there, 263. That's right in your packets tonight, gentlemen. The membership report is that 263 number, not some other number.
Okay.
Okay? I just wanted to point that out. As he said, it's not a, anyway, it's right here.
Okay. Are there any other public comments? No? Okay, we'll move on. First item on our list are approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Yes, sir.
Has everybody had copies of them?
They were sent by email.
I was going to say, I know mine was email, I didn't
They're
print
not in our
it.
packets.
Yeah, they're all.
They were email.
Okay, I'm sure they're fine, but I didn't see
You
them.
know, that's probably a suggestion for the future, Tom, is in addition to
Email them.
emailing them, putting them in the packets, don't you think?
Used to, actually.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Of those,
You need a motion?
of those that did see them via email.
I hope everyone did see them.
Yes, sir.
I
Les?
saw them, I signed off on them, and I helped write them, and they're okay, as far as I'm concerned.
Motion.
Okay.
I'll move the acceptance of the minutes.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Who seconded that?
I did.
John, yeah.
All right, moving on to the county commissioners report. Tom, I know you we received that when we came in tonight. It wasn't in our board packet previously, and I know Tom spoke with one of our commissioners with some highlights.
Yes, Judy called me just prior to this meeting and asked me to reiterate. Part of the report talks about rabies epidemic in Worcester County, that it continues. There was a problem with rabies last summer. That problem is continuing right now. She told me that there were 6 people in the county right now being treated for rabies. And that's a pretty large number of people at one point in time. So she had asked that we reiterate that one of the biggest problems in the spread of rabies are people that are feeding wildlife, and that includes feral cats. She told me that they were aware, the county was aware of some residents in the Pines that were actually feeding a colony of feral cats that are congregating around one of the mailbox clusters. She didn't know where it was, but the point in the message is that is a method by which people encourage the spread of rabies, and she'd asked that the health department asked that people not do that. So I wanted to reiterate that on behalf of Judy and thank her for that information. Tom, can I make a recommendation that Teresa put this on the public announcement and send out a separate, not a weekly update, but a separate special announcement, rabies in the county, and spell out what's in the
She could actually
paragraph.
quote them.
That's what I'm saying, just pick up what's in here, because there are talks about cats and, rabies, et cetera. So I would recommend. I'd be happy to do that.
We should be behind Ken. Go to sleep.
Anything else from the
That's it.
commissioners report?
No, she talks about a clothesline bill. There's a bill in the House right now that it would be overriding any declarations or restrictions that prohibit clotheslines. It's in the House right now, and people that are interested in either opposing or supporting that should be doing that now. And I would just say, I'll say that for a minute, and before a few other things.
Okay. Any other comments about the Commissioner's report for those that had a chance to peruse it? Okay, next topic. Go with you, Tom. General Manager's report, please.
Okay. Staying with the county, it was a week ago Tuesday, I presented to the county commissioners the association's request for funding for next year, asking for an amount equal to last year to support our police department. I'd also asked them to, and I also thanked them for bringing the bridges into the county inventories to make us eligible for public funds for the repair of those bridges. I had also asked them to provide funding in the budget for improvements to the drainage system along Beecham Road to help relieve some stormwater problems that are being caused in Section 3 of the Ocean Pines development because of bottlenecks along Beecham Road. Finally, I had asked the county commissioners to do anything that they can and offered the association support as well to have the liquid fuel tax funds that are being diverted right now reinstated for road maintenance, because this will be the second year that the association will be putting a freeze on road paving because those funds are no longer, haven't been available last year and are not planned for this year. Okay, three other things that are not in my manager's report, but I'll just update verbally. March 6th, we held a public meeting here in the community center with residents of Section 3 to talk about the flooding problems that exist, or the stormwater problems that exist over there, and some of the possible solutions and costs. So we presented that information. It was, I thought, a pretty good turnout. 68 people from the Section 3 were in attendance at that meeting, and for those that were not in attendance, we'll be making that video available on Channel 78 and the website for their review. Marina, the board approved, as part of the budget, establishing a non-ethanol gas delivery system over at the marina this year. We have about 8,500 gallons of alcohol-based gasoline in the tanks right now. We're going to be moving that gas out of those tanks and using it in our public works and golf areas. And that will free up the tanks right now to put the unleaded gas in, or not the unleaded gas, the ethanol-free gas in our tanks and make it available probably by about mid-April or so. That's what we're shooting for right now. There's a process that we have to go through. We have to drain the tanks, we have to clean the tanks, we have to reestablish new filters in them, and then fill them up. I think we can get it all done by April 15th, but what I can assure the board is that as soon as we can get it going, we intend to.
When do they usually open that?
April 15th.
April 15th.
Okay.
Now, when I was speaking to Wayne the other day, he gave me the impression that what they were going to do was draw down the gas that was in the current tanks to a certain level, and then they were going to mix the regular gas with that, because once you get down to a certain level, 400 or 500 gallons, it doesn't really make a difference, because it thins it down to such a degree that you're really not getting any of the ethanol. And then the next load that comes in will be 100%, just about 100%.
New plan since you talked to Wayne. We've got the folks that deliver our gasoline are willing to pump the tank down for us so that we can just put them all in fresh. So to leave them, that was a good plan. This is a better plan.
Yeah, it is, I would agree.
Communications, I had mentioned to the board in an email earlier, and I just want to reiterate today, we've established a task force to create a community-wide marketing plan to market all of our facilities. It's going to be a pretty big undertaking. The great part of that is that we have received an offer of pro bono services from a marketing consulting group called Terry and Unitas. Tom Terry is a member of the association, and he has worked on our budget and finance committee, and they've offered to provide us with assistance in developing that. So certainly anxious and eager to take advantage of that opportunity, and he will be working with us to do that in short order. It'll take a comprehensive review, and I don't think that I think it'll take quite a while to put that together, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to do some additional things this year that we haven't done in the past.
Can I ask a question? Because, you know, marketing is very dear to my heart.
Near and dear.
What new things are you planning on doing, Tom?
Okay. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to do a cross-marketing program where we're going to we have certain activities that seem to create built-in markets for us. And a good example is that our most popular facility is the beach club in the summertime. So as you're leaving the beach club these days, what you're going to see, you're going to be greeted by one of the parking attendants, and they may be giving you a promotional coupon for Twilight Golf, for example, or giving you a list of the schedule of entertainment for the weekend, or at the yacht club, or maybe some food specials. Same types of things will be done at the pools and the yacht club and the pro shop, so that if you're if there's a golf outing over there on a Saturday afternoon, for example, after the cart attendant takes your cart back, he may be handing you a coupon and says, here's you know, a discount for dinner over at the yacht club, and here's the directions to get there. So that's one of the things we'll.
I don't know, if we're going to discuss this later on, Pete, because you asked me to withdraw my motion, so.
Well, as included in your material, I have the report as a reaction to the Budget and Finance Committee's 7 recommendations of the Board of Directors, which it rendered back in January. And in that report, John, is their recommendation that a marketing task force or be created. And what I said was that that recommendation is on the table, and that I knew that Tom Olson, the general manager, was working with some other individuals. I did not know, I guess you reported it just happened today, that we got the pro bono services of a professional marketing organization. So all I was suggesting, John, was that we've already got that covered. If there's need for a motion from the board, that we could do that at the next meeting. But I knew that some things were in progress. I didn't.
I was aware of the things in progress you talked about.
So this is a new development.
What, if you don't mind,
Sure.
I have a couple of concerns. And I think what you're doing is on the right track. But I'm also concerned that our senior management, by senior management, I just don't mean you, Tom, I mean Mike Howell, I mean Art Carmine. How often do they go talk to our clubs, like the boating club, like the golf club, like the, and try and sell the new programs that we have, get up in front of those folks and say, these are the new programs we have. Aquatics got a whole new system going on. Golf's got so much going on. You know, I believe it's the responsibility of senior management to embrace that and go to these large denominations, you know, where they have 60, 70 people at a meeting and sell our program. Constant promotional of our amenities, I think, is important, and I haven't seen that done.
Actually, we've done some of that. I've done it with the Kiwanis, I've done it with a few others as well, but certainly can do more of it.
Well, I think it's absolutely a necessity that we get out there and start talking to these larger clubs that we have and not be afraid of what they have to say back to us. I think they want to hear from us.
Tom, you mentioned that this is going to take a matter of several months, right? I think what he described as some initial plans, but more importantly is the development of a more comprehensive, integrated plan, right?
Sure.
A comprehensive plan.
Pete, I'm well aware, and Tom and I have talked about it, and that's why I didn't put it on the motion on it last month, and I'm glad to see we're going down this road. To me, it's very important. I mean, you know, depending how you look at marketing, you know, some people say you got 5 Ps, 4 Cs, or whatever. You know, people, places, and you know, the key that we have to work on is pricing and constant promotion. And promotion, you know, I looked the other day to see in the modern internet world who's on Facebook. You know, we're not on Facebook in the Pines other than the Aquatics Committee, and that's because of the young lady who came on board. I mean, I'm hoping that the plan will, and from what I read, seems to me like it will capture that. will look at our antiquated signs that we have out there and maybe step us into the 21st century in some of our marketing techniques. Because Marty mentioned it a long time ago, that we need these signs. And I started talking to people and asking the value. And I know a number of people who use these signs, and they hated them in the beginning. They said, this isn't worth it. Now they wouldn't live without them. So I'm just, and I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed I didn't see it in the budget, and I know Pete said we shouldn't have brought it up last time. However, I think it's management's responsibility to put these new ideas in.
It's important to understand that, John, because that was not ignored and that wasn't forgotten. That was actually proposed about a year ago. And we went out and we got the cost for it, and the reason that there wasn't in there was because the board said, we don't like that. It was $35,000, it was $35,000 to $40,000 for those, and what he's talking about are the electronic signs, the neon type signs.
It was my motion. I already know exactly what he's talking about.
So it was not, it failed, it didn't, it was not.
But his motion was to put it out on Route 589, where I was talking about, going back and looking at that and stepping them down a little bit and saying, hey, But anyway, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course, ultimately, the proof is in the pudding, because I get very concerned that we have flavors of the month. And the perfect example of that, if you don't mind, is about a year or so ago, we spent almost a full day in this room talking about goals and objectives of our management team, and we're not here hiding a hair whether or not they met their goals and objectives of last year. So it's all about feedback. To me, that is very important, that we know whether these trends are going to change and go up.
Okay, speaking of goals and objectives, membership. I can tell you that we've actually sold 2 new golf memberships so far and 1 beach parking pass. Now, that's not a lot, but the bottom line is it's 2 months before the beginning of the season, so it's a positive sign. And I'll just stop there. It's a positive sign. Now, talking about 21st century and our goals and objectives. One of the things that you'll see this year is that we're improving our membership registration and electronic updates. The cards that were issued last year can be updated electronically, and it's going to help us to minimize the lines out at the member registration office. People can actually, if they want to renew their memberships for golf or aquatics or things like that, we can update those here from the office. They don't even have to come in as long as they send their check-in for us. We're also going to be changing the paper coupons that we used to use for the pools, and they will now be debit card type coupons, and that can be recharged. So they hopefully will make the system more efficient as well. Our goal is to improve service to the membership and ease holiday lines and try and make the membership process less burdensome for our customers. New subjects, 10-year, and there's other portions of my membership report that I'll just go over in the interest of time. 10-year plan task force, February 20th, we presented our presentation to the members at a public meeting. That video is now on Channel 78 and on the website as well, and I think we had over 200 hits in the first 2 weeks that it was being published, or that it was being run. Swim and Racket project, Harkins Construction actually started their work today on the project, so it's underway. We do have our county building permits in hand, and we are hoping that the state permits will be on their way as for pool work, which hasn't started yet. We're working on the deck right now, but hopefully the pool permits will be received shortly. Next item is propane. The Budget and Finance Committee had created several recommendations, and one of them was to look at alternatives to propane gas. We have done some polling of propane distributors. It looks like we might be able to save some money on the wholesale level for our propane needs, particularly up at the sports court pool. I'm sorry. And we've got some research to do about tank placement and that type of thing, but if it looks like a less expensive option and there's substantial savings, we'll be pursuing that in the next few months. OPA versus YMCA, the council has filed the necessary notice of appeal, and we're waiting scheduling from the courts for a date. Our yacht club bid deadline. We had a pre-bid conference with the bidders last month, and I reported that at our last meeting. We had a March 15th deadline date for submission of bids. Based on some of the questions and requests that we had and the snowstorms and all the other good stuff, we've agreed to extend the deadline date to March 31st for that. And that concludes my manager's report.
All right, moving on to old business. I'll run down the pending action list very quickly here, which is the items that are open. Pete, I know you're going to go over delinquent
Right,
assessments.
I am.
You will wait until you do that?
Right.
Okay. Golf Advisory Committee, we're going to address that later on in the meeting. Anybody see anything on there that we've overlooked? Tom, you covered most of, if not all of the items on the report.
I believe so.
Anybody else see anything that we need to address? I'm good. Everybody else?
Okay.
Marty, you okay? Good, Les? Good. All right. New business. Let's take the ARC violation first, since it's on there first. Tom, you want to talk about that? Have I caught you a little bit?
I have one for you. It is a commercial vehicle on a property that has ignored our warnings. The member was contacted, and the vehicle remains there. It is an oversized truck with commercial lettering on it. We're recommending that we take the refer it to Association Council for further legal action.
Two questions. I'm assuming that the people in the house with the truck are renters, but
They
that's
are.
just an assumption.
They are.
And when we have no phone number listed, is that for anybody? I mean, did anybody call Gwyneth in Gaithersburg? And when there's no phone list, I couldn't find it in the phone book, but it's all over the truck. My eyes aren't good enough to read it, but if I was going to contact the person living in that house, I'd certainly take the number off. You've got 35 pictures of the truck, the phone numbers in every one of them. Just a little detective hint for future reference.
Well, bottom line is the owner's got the obligation. And
I understand that. I understand
them. I believe that they have had contact with this fellow and just refused to move it.
There is, down on this lead sheet of paper, under member contact, yes, I said yes, return email to owner. Now, I don't know what return email, that sounds like something went forward and came back, return.
Well, if you notice, back in February, they did have correspondence via email with the
Right.
owner.
Sent and received with owner,
Correct.
extending the violation. So there has been some back and forth.
They have
Correct.
absolutely been in contact with these folks.
Certified mail's been sent and received.
It's been going on for a long time.
Yeah,
hasn't it?
they have had
Yeah,
contact.
It's been a year.
They always
A
do.
year.
Is there a motion?
They always do.
Before, one last, you can make a motion and I'll do it during discussion if you want, but I mean, has anybody looked at the truck over on that site on Clubhouse?
Yeah, I've certainly seen it.
When you turned around to get back in your car, did you notice the pontoon boat with the torn blue tarp on blocks in the driveway of the house across the street? It was pretty, I mean, you'd have to notice it.
I can
Look-
show you
look-
probably a couple on Ocean Parkway that are not.
It just
that have been
just
too.
made my point.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a well-kept business truck and a slummy-looking blue tarp, but hey, we're a boating community.
Well, here's what we're saying.
Recommending we take action?
We need to take action on this.
Call the question.
All in favor that,
We haven't had a motion
all
yet.
right, you want to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we, as recommended, send it to the OPA attorney for action.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So noted.
Just not an easy
Yeah.
solution.
Okay, the next item under new business, Budget and Finance Committee report. Mr. Gomsack.
Yeah, and I'm not giving the Budget and Finance Committee's report. What Bill Rako had asked me to do, and in the spirit, I believe, which he has expressed, I think, on behalf of the board, is that that we owe committees a response when they make recommendations to the board and come up with suggestions to the board, that we owe them at least a response. And you all know that through the email that he sent to all of us, he asked me to take responsibility at this meeting to respond to the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendations, which were contained in the February 16th memorandum to Bill Rako from Brian Roberts, chair of that committee, and which contains 7 recommendations, I believe. So it was a 4-page memo distributed. I simply lifted out of that previously distributed to the board report and summarized it and offered my own comments and then proposed board action. I have no motions to offer today, just my own reaction so that we can have any discussion we might wish to. But I think all of us applaud the effort to be trying to be responsive to these committees. I know that I've heard, as we all have, committees that say, I've made recommendations, the board never heard back from the various committees. So I, for one, I think all of us applaud the effort here. So I'm just going to invite questions. You all received this in advance as part of the board package. There's nothing, well, I'll just run down them real quick. There's 7 of them. They're in writing. The 5-year financial plan. We've approved recently the year 2 of the budget plan. I do think that we ought to, and again, there's no motions here tonight. I'm not asking for any board action, but I think as a matter of principle, we probably, outside the budget process, it would be a good thing if we could embrace the 5-year plan going forward. Any board at any time in the future can obviously undo that plan or have its own budget that doesn't follow through. It's a year-by-year decision. On the other hand, embracing it conceptually would seem to me to be a good idea, and so I would offer that's my reaction to that particular recommendation from the committee.
Wouldn't our action to approve the budget have
Well, that's what I'm
affirmed that?
thinking, yeah. The board takes into account the 5-year plan as part of that process, and each budget year will be acted upon individually, but we've never had a separate motion to embrace the whole 5-year plan. And perhaps it comes into play when the 10-year plan, I don't know, it just seems to me that it would be a good idea to embrace the plan, so providing direction for future boards. And I just offered for comment, that's all. That's my thought.
Well, I like the format. I think I commend you for this format. I think it's a
Thank you.
great format. I think we ought to adopt it. You're absolutely right. We owe things to our committees, and we don't necessarily get back to them from a board action, and this can go back to them. I think it's a great format.
John, thank you, John. One thing I do want to point out, at the last Budget and Finance Committee meeting, I am the liaison, of course I used to be on that committee, I actually conveyed to them each and every one of my comments and proposed, so this report, I essentially, although I didn't have it completed and typed at the time, I shared with them verbally each and every item on here so they would not be surprised. So they were appreciative of that, number one. And number 2, had no objection to what I was saying. So, but I think, John, in the spirit of what you just said, I think it's a good process for undertake. Number 2, create the marketing task force, which we've already talked about. And I've simply said, as has been echoed by many, that there's a recognition that management has a responsibility for developing marketing plans for various activities. And the committee is suggesting volunteers be used to help management, either through a committee or a task force. The key point is that OP needs more and better organized and focused marketing to increase revenues. John, I know you absolutely
Well, I
agree.
think, absolutely agree, but I think, Tom has it under right now, and so let's just go forward,
Yeah.
and let's continue to get feedback where we are on it, and
Right.
I don't think any motion is necessary at this
Okay.
stage.
And you'll see that my proposed board action is actually along those lines. And frankly, at the time I wrote this, I didn't realize that we were moving ahead the way we were. So we got to keep
Well, no, I
keep
had a
our eyes
feel,
on
I
it,
had a
right?
feel that Tom was moving in that direction, but I just wanted to continue to push him.
Okay. Well, I think we're doing what the...
He doesn't have a damn thing on his plate, you know.
Yeah, well, I think he's gotten the message. I think he's gotten the message, right, Tom?
I got it,
Okay.
loud and clear.
Number 3, and this is interesting, create a compensation and fringe benefit task force. An evaluation of the association's compensation programs was performed by an independent party in 2008 and a report prepared. The benefit program, however, medical and other things, 401k, was not similarly evaluated. So we had a professional compensation study done, but not, so my reaction to that proposed action is a small group consisting of the treasurer and several others with appropriate knowledge and experience, because this is a sensitive area, should be created and tasked with reviewing the benefit program and the previously conducted compensation study. That's my thinking on the matter. Again, I invite your thoughts on that, but it seems to me that we have had an outside study done on the compensation, but they didn't look at all at the fringe benefit program, and that's a significant cost. I know that one of the budget variances, positive variances, that Tom has reported to us on is some modifications made to the health care plan. I think which you quantified at about a $50,000 savings. But it seems to me it wouldn't hurt for us to have a small group. I don't think we need some big task force and committee, but a small group to take a look at the compensation plan. Again, I think the emphasis here is on people who have the appropriate experience. And I only say the treasurer because whether it be me or somebody else, I think representing in that committee, that small group, the association's financial function is important, but then have maybe get 2 people with appropriate experience in this arena. And I think one of them in particular is on the Budget and Finance Committee and really is the one who was a proponent of this. And it's not Tom Terry, it's somebody else. So that's my thought on that.
What was our response to the independent party 2008 report? Do we take any action? Do we?
No, I think
modify?
better Tom, no, it did not come to the board. I think Tom engaged that as a part of a process of, that's a management, he undertook it as a management, it wasn't a board-initiated thing.
Okay.
It was to periodically evaluate our compensation comparison with the competitive environment. The surveys were taken of other employers in the area, similar positions. It was, I read it and it was pretty good. Obviously, it's insensitive because you're talking about people's names. And now, subsequently, the Homeowner Association Act was revised to to provide access to anyone seeking the information for those individuals compensated to the degree of $50,000 or more be made available and not restricted as confidential information.
More than 50.
More than 50. Thank you for that clarification. So more than $50,001 would, so a certain individual in the room made that formal request, and under the revised law, management had to provide that information, and of course it was then published. So, and you may recall from that, there was a lot of criticism, people making too much money, et cetera, but the majority, not the majority, but a significant part of those people were either fire department personnel, not fire department, police department personnel, which included their overtime, by the way. That's the way you have to do it. But the answer to the question is there was a pretty good study done, and it compared our compensation levels for key people as others. So, Tom, you want to elaborate on that? It was a management executed
I think you summarized
study.
it.
Okay. But we didn't do it for benefits, and that was the thing. We probably ought to do a similar kind of look-see at our benefit program.
Next one, 4.
Okay. Number 4, the recommendation was to close the club operations except catering during the renovation period rather than relocate to Turn Grill. We hashed that out during the final budget. No action needed. I think we're all in sync. Simply say, let's continue with the plan as agreed to by the board, which was essentially to go by the budget, which has it through December. But if things are going well, and we've challenged the community to try and be responsive, and if it's going well, then we'll continue it on. But so no action proposed there. Number 5 out of the 7, ensure yacht club operations, service, and quality of food improve after facility is renovated. Amen, amen, amen. This recommendation is the objective sought by the board, management, and the membership. The question is, of course, how to do it. This is interesting here. My third column is various strategies will need to be adopted to achieve the desired and very necessary improvements. The board should seek and retain outside assistance as necessary in creating a comprehensive plan for improved yacht club operations with specific goals of attracting a wider customer base, to improve menu, trends, greater selections and price points and trends, and improve quality of both food and service. So again, I'm not proposing any action tonight, but it seems to me that we would benefit from the assistance of a professional in this arena to help us. You know, the comment has been made, and I don't disagree with it at all, that in making the renovations that we're planning to make to the yacht club, we also need to focus on making it not just an improved physical facility, but better menu, better service, and make it a complete package, not just renovate the physical structure itself. So that last is the update, the financial agreement.
Before you move on.
I'm sorry, go ahead, yeah.
I would recommend you take that one and pass it over to the Club's Advisory Committee.
Okay,
And let them
chew on that, and see
chew
what
on
they,
it.
yeah, okay, that's
I'm
good.
gonna be gone this,
Okay,
but I think that's where that really belongs, because
that's a good point, yeah. But we ought to be open to that, and I hope that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, they are.
Good. I mean, we're talking about it for golf course operations. We may benefit similarly from such a thing with the yacht club and food and beverage operations generally.
And I would also assume that's part of the marketing, comprehensive marketing plan.
What I have in mind is more than just
I
marketing.
understand that, but I
Yeah,
mean-
marketing has to be part of it, John.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. But how, yeah, we know.
Tied in, you mean, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, we are. We are, I think, as pointed out in the recent article in one of our publications here in the community, we are committed to improving both golf and as well as yacht club operations. So we're going to give it the best shot. Number 6, update the financial agreement between the OP Volunteer Fire Department and the association. And I just want to, here's what I say, and you have it in your report, and you've read it presumably. The recommendation refers to financial agreement. There is no such agreement, as the basic agreement sets forth the funding principles between the parties. Separately, there is a funding formula that was created many years ago and has been used since, despite dramatic changes in circumstances since that time. The committee properly recognizes that the current funding formula is outdated and a new methodology is needed. No action is necessary at this time, since the board agrees with the need and has approved the method of moving forward to revise the currently utilized funding methodology. So that's in place.
But doesn't someone eventually have to work with the fire department and actually change that formula?
The answer is yes, and that committee that was already created, I think Bob Thompson is involved in that process, and
Okay.
and I know Bill, and I think appropriately, he wanted to allow tensions to maybe settle down a little bit, and I think he mentioned at a previous meeting the April-May timeframe, and Bob, I know that you're working with Bill on that, and I'm not, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've read it just as a quick, I've spoken with Ron at the fire department, and we're working schedules where we can spend some time
Right.
to address it, but this isn't, something we're jumping into.
Right, exactly.
We're going to ease into it and figure out what the right answer is for all parties.
Right. We have approved a budget which incorporates that same carryover formula with the exception of the $40,000, which Bob took to them on our behalf. And so we are where we are today. We have in place a mechanism, and we'll hear more about that. Okay?
Next one.
Last one is cut or redirect $30,000 in operating costs in the PR marketing budget. My comment, the board has approved the budget as presented at the public hearing on January 23rd. Specific line item modifications were not deemed necessary or appropriate. No action necessary. Management has received the views of various individuals and committees and has the authority to make changes to budgeted items as it deems appropriate. Tom, so rather than us get into nitpicking and saying 20,000 here and 10,000 there, we approved the budget. Now it's up to management, and they can make modifications as they see fit in that budget, right? So I'd be happy any feedback on that. But again, in the spirit of trying to give feedback to the committees and try and act on those recommendations that make sense, we ought to do that, and that's what we're trying to do.
I think as the liaison, I'd ask you to take it back, our appreciation as the board for all the work they've put into it so far, because really, they've done a great job, and this
They
is a
have.
great outline, so please pass that on to the
I will.
committee.
Okay. No other questions on that, then next.
Okay. Next one, communication advisory recommendations. This report came from Ron Fisher, who happens to be the chairman of the Communication Advisory Committee. And Ron, I know you were able to make it tonight.
I did.
Since you're here, I don't have any problem departing to allow you to review, as long as no one else has any objections to it.
No objection.
Okay, I'll be
Ron?
happy to. We, over the past several months since I took over chairmanship, been doing a lot of brainstorming on the committee and came up at this point with 3 recommendations, and we also want to give you an update on other activities that we're involved in. But the first recommendation is the quarterly report. And I'll just read through this quickly. Given current economic times, the advisory committee generally explored the idea that the report could potentially be downsized in overall scope to reduce production, printing, and mailing costs. At the present time, it's about a $35,000 expense to publish that annually. We believe it's possible to compress the most critical information.
Is that the handbook? Excuse me, is that the handbook you're talking about?
Quarterly report.
No, the OP report, the quarterly report.
Newsletter.
You know what we're talking about? We believe it's possible to compress the most critical information into publication of 4 pages to be printed in black and white to include the president, GM's report, as well as some essential financial reports. The page count could be varied for special circumstances, such as inclusion of information for board candidates as the election approaches. The entire report or evaluation could be made available on the website and advertised as such. The associated annual cost savings for a 4-page black and white report, and this was provided by Teresa Travatello, will be approximately $13,428. We did, before we actually got into this discussion, we did a very informal survey of about 300 members. And basically asked them if they read the report, if they found it useful, and the overwhelming majority didn't even read it. They tossed it in the can. Those who did read it read the general manager's report most, and occasionally scanned over the financial information. And that's basically why we came back with this recommendation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Of the 300 members you guys asked, how many were non-resident? The majority of our membership?
No, these were all resident. Yeah, these were all resident.
I was going to ask the same question because about half of our 8,400 people,
More than half.
are not here. I can
Are
tell
not
you, I went 6 years plus being in that status, and I read every page of this thing. And I heard you say a moment ago that they read maybe the general manager's report. I hope they don't ignore our president's report on the front page, but in any event, I think that we have made tremendous progress with this publication in the last couple of years. The non-residents, I think it's our only real means of communication we have in this association. I do know that a comment, and I thought we were going down that path in the budget process, and that was to take the recommendation to try and reduce the cost of that by the plan, which was described to me as in one of the mailings of this thing to insert a notice that said, we are trying to reduce our costs. If you're not interested in, and this is going to go to all 8,440 people, not just a random haphazard informal survey, to actually ask all 8,440 people to take a look and send this back to say whether or not they would like to continue receiving it. If 6,000 of the 8,000 send back and say they don't want it, we eliminate 6,000, but provide it only for the 2. So that's what I have heard. That made sense to me, rather than a 4-page black and white.
We certainly thought of that. I mean, you know, we're not overlooking the fact that there are a lot of non-residents that receive that. But it is available on the website as well.
Ron, the challenge with the website
Yeah.
is I may get it, or I may not even go on the Ocean Pines forum to look at it. So it may not be read at all on the website. Everybody makes the assumption because it's on the web, it's automatic. People are going to look for it and look for it, and that's not necessarily the case. And the other thing is, even if it was mailed to my email, it's not necessarily the case that other members of my family are going to get to see it, because I may not forward it on if they're not on the mailing list. I think we have to be very careful, and I understand the need to reduce costs, and I support that 100%. However, I think what we should do is wait until see what the comprehensive marketing plan comes up with that was discussed earlier on, and see how it takes all the approaches that we're talking about promotion and see where we go with all of this and try and tie it all together. Because to downplay this to 4 pages, it may not be the 4 pages I'm interested in. I will tell you, the one thing I'm very much interested in are the clubs.
The clubs would be.
But I mean, I'm just saying, you know, so everybody has a little bit different thing. So I think, let's hope that the ad hoc marketing committee that Tom is putting together addresses all, not only our print, but our television media, our internet media, and then where we should be in the 21st century, and then see where it comes out.
Go ahead, Marty.
How much do we generate from the 8 ads that are in here?
5,000.
$5,000.
Is that reflected in this, in the bottom line in the budget? I mean, is that applied to this? So when we look at, it cost us $100,000 a year to send out a newsletter, is it $100,000 less? 20?
What happens is the revenue is reflected up in the revenue part of the budget, and then the expense of 35,000 is down.
Yeah, but Marty's point is, I think, that our net cost is minus the revenue that we get.
Right.
Right.
Well,
So you quoted a figure earlier of what, how much was it?
35.
You were looking at only the cost.
That's correct.
So you'd have to
That's correct.
get that down to 30 right off the bat. And I know we talked about the approach that I mentioned a moment ago. That was discussed, it was hashed out in the Budget and Finance Committee as part of the budget process. And frankly, out of that came the recommendation that we proceed with a process that I described earlier about surveying, not in a haphazard way, but in a formal way, all recipients of this to see whether or not they want to continue to get it. And if they didn't, then boom.
Let me jump in because I was involved in the meetings with Ron and his team, if that's all right, Ron.
Sure.
Their task is to find ways to communicate with the association as a whole, what's working and what's not working. This is one of the reports that goes out once a quarter to everyone in the association. And $35,000+ is a pretty significant expense. This recommendation came from, let's downsize it for one of our next sessions with the information still available, what gets mailed out, says you can visit our website at this address to get the additional information. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa was still going to have about 300 to 400 printed that could be mailed to somebody for the out-of-state resident, or people that don't live here full-time. And that's going to be on there. If you'd like a hard copy, please call us at this number and we'll forward one to you. I thought it was
That's
a
correct.
great way
That's
to
correct.
this would be a great way in a test, because as you all know, when you send surveys out, you got cost to create the survey and mail it out. We're already doing the mailing here. If we downsized it and then had a phone number and address, and if they wanted a copy, we would still send it to them. I thought it was a great way to test market, to see if this worked, was something we're already spending a lot of money on, and it's in question who actually uses it. I thought it was a great...
And it's a question as to how it's communicated. I mean, that's the big issue.
Bob, you said 300 or 400 people would continue to get what? A 4-page
No,
report or a 16-page report?
Teresa would still have printed the full report that would be available on the website.
Oh,
Our
but it would
mailing
be
would-
available,
Okay. So what I hear you saying is we'd still have a 16-page report, but we would condense down to 4 pages that would be sent out.
Correct. Instead of ordering mailing 8,440 of these, as the full report, we'd mail a 4-page report, much scaled down, with directions of here's how you can get the additional report.
We will let them know that
Okay.
the full version is available on the website, or they can request a hard copy.
Okay, but
but the hard copy requested is a 4-page report, not a 6.
No,
it's the full
It's the
whole
same- it'd be
Just like this?
Just
Yeah.
like that,
Just
yes.
like that.
What he's saying, Pete, is we'll take this, take
What's
4
that?
pages, and we'll mail out 4 pages of it. And we'll say the rest of the report is available either on our website, and if you want a hard copy,
Just call
come
and
back
send
in,
it.
call us, and we'll send it out to you.
And I can get this?
Yeah.
Well, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a,
That's what, it was a test.
Because I'm looking through here and saying, what would you eliminate? My gosh, here's the president's report on the front, there's the general manager's report.
Takes a page and a half.
The financial report, which is a page, that's 3. And then there's also advertisements for the yacht club. We talk about advertisement promotions, 2-for-1 special, here's a
to get rid
coupon.
of.
The clubs would be abbreviated in there, in terms of clubs.
Recs and parks.
Right.
There's a lot of good stuff in here.
There is.
I
for
gotta tell you, I
those that
loved it
read
when I was living in Cincinnati and I'd get this and I'd go through the whole thing.
Marty?
We can
Just
still
one-
request it.
Okay.
One little suggestion, I think we're giving the ads away. We're basically per head charging 60 cents. The park gets almost $3 for every mailing per ad, for an ad copy. Pines Point Marina gets $2.
The park has some really nice, they do it every month.
Doesn't cost them a nickel
Yeah.
either. They do it
The
all
park
on
has one very
ad.
similar. Have you seen the parks?
I have.
Yeah,
I have.
okay.
I have.
Okay, very similar.
I personally don't have a problem doing it, I just think it needs to be rolled into the
Yeah,
ad
we're
hoc
not gonna decide
committee.
tonight, we're just looking at some reactions.
These are recommendations
Sell some ads.
from the committee.
Sell some ads, we can make it 4
Ron,
colors.
would you like to go to number 2?
I'll go to number 2. Open forum on communications. Committee would like to hold an open forum for community residents in early April to discuss communications. The purpose of that would be to assess the general membership, to gain ideas how they might perceive how communications could be enhanced, and also gain knowledge as to their opinions of current publications, the website, Channel 78, and email communications. We don't feel a survey is the best way to go. I really think one-on-one open forum is the best way to discuss overall communications in Pines. We're just asking for your blessing to move forward with that.
There's no cost involved in it.
No cost.
Just using,
Right.
taking one of the rooms at the new facility?
I don't think you need board blessing to do that.
No, well, hey, I
General manager, you need general manager blessing.
just bringing it up as activities that the Communication Advisory Committee is recommending that they're going to be doing.
Yeah, the next one is a health fair. And you might ask, well, what's a communications committee involved in the health fair for? One of our charges is to improve community image. And to my knowledge, we've never had a health fair on site in Ocean Pines. And I spoke to Atlantic General Hospital, and they're excited about the possibility of doing one here, like in the community center. That could be expanded to include bicycle safety, boating safety, and a multitude of other things. Again, there's no cost to us. The hospital, it fits into their strategic plan to provide some outreach, and particularly in preventative health. And we're just, again, asking for your blessing to move forward with that.
Sounds good.
Any other comments there?
Yeah, coordinate with the fire department. They have bicycle safety classes.
Yeah, it was talked about.
And they
Yeah.
do their blood pressure here in the
Absolutely.
We definitely will. The committee's also right now involved in the website review. We recommended adding hot topics to the home page so that people can easily get into major issues that are taking place in the community. We're also investigating a search engine for the site. And finally, we're also preparing a program on how to write effective press releases that would be offered to nonprofit organizations operating in the community. So, and that's pretty much where we're at right now.
How hard is it to put a counter on the website?
A calendar
A counter.
or counter?
How many people are looking at it?
Don't know.
They have one.
Oh, they know that.
They do know?
They have a calendar, sure, absolutely.
A counter. Counts the number of people.
Oh, how many are?
Hits?
Hits.
Hit,
How many
absolutely,
hits? Yeah.
You can
absolutely.
track
Is it
that.
something we can look at on the website, or do we have to have
No, it's,
Yeah.
secret probation?
if you want to know, he's got the number. I mean, Teresa can give you the number of hits on any particular thing you want, absolutely.
Top secret.
Is it
security.
effective?
The website?
Yeah. Are we getting 500 hits a day? Are we getting 100 hits a day?
Actually,
There's a citation even in our board packet about how many hits were on
I
something.
actually told, I told you how many hits I got on the 10-year plan task force.
That's where it was, it's in the general manager's report, I think.
No, it's just 10-year task force. In here
It
today?
was in your e-blast, it was in your e-blast.
I just read somewhere where
E-blast.
somebody hit.
Okay, E-blast. Sorry. Go on.
Yes, just one, so it's my understanding that there's no action relative to the quarterly report. Am I correct?
Well,
I'm not sure what
no,
you're asking for.
Well,
Bob, you want to answer that or not?
Well, no, you can go ahead.
Okay.
You seem like you got an answer.
This board is not structured in a way that it deals with individual requests and acts on them here. The general manager is really the appropriate person, I think, now, I think with respect to the other items, I said, you don't need to come to the board to get approval. I think the general manager hold this and hold that. But those with budgetary implications, we've already approved the budget for this year.
right.
Does that mean we're not going to?
Well, I said earlier that the general manager has authority within the budget, that specific item that was raised by the Budget and Finance Committee, the $30,000, that recommendation came out of what I summarized there a moment ago. Their thought process being that you could save money not by doing what you said, but they had another solution to the same issue. So you got one committee that has this solution to reduce costs, another committee has this solution to reduce costs, and I don't see any board action tonight to deal with that. I think the general manager needs to hear and get Teresa involved and somebody from the Budget and Finance Committee. I mean, I just don't think it's appropriate for the board to be acting on that suggestion.
Let me,
But go ahead.
we're getting there in baby steps, Ron. I actually met with Teresa this afternoon because our deadline for the next quarterly report is actually
Monday.
Right.
It's Monday, the 15th, and it's all
So-
set.
Right.
So what we were doing was, well, let's see if we can cut this thing down to 4 pages. This one's not going out of 4 pages.
No, we understood that, yeah.
And as we started, slashing and burning to get it down to 4 pages, there wasn't much left. And again, the general manager's report between the president and the general manager's report in this quarterly report, they represent 2 1/2 pages of text. Okay? That would leave you a page and a half.
Finance, don't forget finance.
If you put
We
finance
need
in
to
there
report
for
to our people how we're
Now
doing.
you've got 1 page for everything else. And John, that committee list, that went. So that would actually literally, if that was something that was to survive, the club's list, there'd be nothing less in that report.
So it could be cut in half, possibly.
We'll see what we can take
Yeah.
out, but bottom line is, whatever we take out is of interest to somebody, because it got
Oh,
in there.
sure.
So it's, but,
But the Communication Advisory Committee, if I'm not mistaken, one of their charges is to find better way to communicate, right? And looking at everything. That's what the board's charged them with. Ron, I
Right.
think you guys have done a great
Heck of a
job,
job.
focused on this. And if it's a, $14,000 savings annually, we ought to consider it, despite how much we may like how much our president writes or our GM writes. Sorry, but they be less wordy, save us $15,000.
That's
Not being
good.
disrespectful, but I'm saying, we gotta work together, we should manage our spending, that's all. That was a good recommendation, will not be decided on tonight. Thanks for bringing it to the attention. You work with
we're actually,
Teresa.
and
see.
we heard you, because it was, now, what can we cut out to make this one smaller, and what are we doing
Perfect.
after that?
Great.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, you're welcome.
Everybody okay? We'll move forward to Resolution C-11, second reading. I would love you to step up and step into that one, please.
C-11 was actually amended at the last board meeting, the membership paragraph. The board approved a change to that. The change creates the committee, or changes the membership to be no more than 9 members, terms to be the same as in C-01 insofar as possible. The reason was that the existing membership was not really working as intended. It included 4 members of the BOG, with the president of the BOG to be the chairman, and 3 other members from outside the BOG. This is going to be the second reading of that, because the board considered the change at the prior meeting. Any questions?
What was that bit about full members from the board?
The revision as it exists, the resolution as it exists now is 4 members, a 7-member committee, 4 members from the BOG with the president of the BOG to be the chairman. The remaining 3 members would be from somewhere else and the other persons within the committee. That's the existing resolution now.
That's what my motion last meeting did, to delete that language mandating that the
That's what I
composition.
thought.
Yeah. All he's saying is that we've already taken action. This is just a second reading of that,
Okay.
right?
So as I understand it, the members of the new advisory committee, there's no mandate that 4 of them come from the board.
correct.
Okay,
Precisely.
yeah, that's where I got confused.
It's open to all members,
Okay.
all members, right.
Okay.
Now, we'll need a formal motion to approve that on a second reading,
Yes.
So
when you're done, whenever
And
you're.
that motion should either be understood to include or include that it's replacing the existing resolution dated
Right.
May 20, 2009.
Right.
Okay?
You want that
Do I have a
now,
motion?
or- Yeah, I'll move that we adopt the motion, which is on second reading.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on this? I'm going to call the question. Do we accept it? All in favor of accepting the motion as written? Any opposed? So be it. Thank you.
Okay, M03 is a recreation facilities rules resolution. It replaces 4 other resolutions currently in existence and will provide for additional rules as the general manager puts them together. This resolution draft, if approved, will give the rules responsibility to the general manager. He would not have to bring them to the board for approval, although he would have to notify the board that he has put a new rule or a revised rule into effect. Basically, it gives the responsibility to the general manager, responsibility for establishing, publishing, and putting in place the various facility, or what I call participant rules. And again, this is the second reading of the draft resolution that you should have before you. I believe the date is January 7th of this year, 2010.
Right. Do I have a motion that we accept this?
I move it. Let's accept
Second.
it.
I'll second.
Bob, can I make just a comment? There are 4 existing resolutions, and it will be understood that those would be canceled.
Right.
Now, the general manager will have to replace.
And we went over that last time, right.
Okay.
Right, this is our second look at the same thing.
Right.
Right. Okay, can I call the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of work goes into those, thanks.
I don't know how he does it.
All right, Mr. Gomsack, you ready to step up to this one?
I don't know. I have to find my stuff.
Next one we're going to
Yeah, I
cover
did.
is delinquent assessments.
Yeah. Please? Sure. Happy to do it. I am reporting on behalf of the committee that was convened in February under existing board resolution regarding delinquent assessments. And I have distributed to you all a memorandum of March 4th, 2010, part of your board packets. In some cases, those of you who picked it up a tad early, we had it subsequently delivered to you. But that memorandum is 3 pages, and it has, with the various attachments, Resolution 04, which was actually executed and effective on June 17th of 2009. And also attached to that, is just for information purposes, is the assessments receivable, outstandings, write-offs, and so forth. So let me just cover this from an information standpoint, but I'm doing so in accordance with the Resolution F04, which essentially, and let me take that first, it set forth a process and really established a board policy as it relates to delinquent accounts. Again, I was not part of that board then, all but Bob Thompson, all but two. We only have 5 of us here, so 3 of you were part of the board that actually put this, set this forward and approved it as a matter of board policy. But really, it formalized a process that you all wanted to undertake, I think, to make sure that we being the association, undertook whatever efforts were necessary, reasonably necessary, to collect delinquent assessments, right? And that process, just perhaps more for the public than for you all, because you all have it, set forth key dates, and that was during the first year of a delinquent account, that by July 1st, a letter be sent notifying that member. By August 1st, another letter be sent notifying that member that a lien was going to be placed on the property, and ask them to take appropriate action to contact the office to make arrangements to pay and so forth. It also established by September 30th that a letter be sent notifying the member lien action is being started and the matter is being forwarded to our attorney. By October 30th, it provided that a lien actually be filed against the property and sending a notice to that effect. By November 30th, a letter sent from our attorney's office, and that was a new one. Besides the time lanes maybe being, this process had not occurred in prior years until a year later. And so by this policy, it accelerated the actual formal communication from an attorney by a year. And then lastly, it provided by March 1, and this is why I'm reporting here tonight, that a review of all delinquent accounts be conducted. The review shall include the treasurer, a member of the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee, the general manager, the controller, and the assessment supervisor. And this is important. The purpose of the review is to determine in each case what additional steps should be taken to gain compliance, to provide an update to management and the board of directors on the overall assessment status, which I'm doing here tonight in accordance with that. And lastly, to make recommendations to change our policy. We have no recommendations to change policy. So I'm here tonight to provide to you, as required by this resolution, that update to management and the board of directors. And that's the purpose of the memo, just to give you that update on that review status. We met 3 times, 2 times during one particular week, and then a follow-up session with our attorney to talk about legalities and where we were and what the costs were and so forth and so on. So I'm not asking for action, and I recognize that we have a series of motions by Director Clark that follows this. I will preface my remarks by saying I don't think we need to formally, and I know we'll have disagreement about that, but I'm just saying on behalf of myself as one director and speaking, I think, on behalf of the committee, that we think that following through on the resolution previously passed by the board and being executed by management with the assistance of this committee is the appropriate way to go, and don't see the need for further board action. Now, having said that, I'm going to go through this very briefly and then invite questions. All right. Background is simply reiterating what I just spoke to. The summary of the outstanding assessments collection. I thought it'd be helpful just to put it in perspective as to where we are and give a little historical perspective too. And what it indicates here is that for the year 2010, and this is information as of February 28th, that we have, and you see various numbers reported in the press and so forth, and I've spoken to this at prior meetings, but essentially at the end of this February 28th reporting period, we had $381,000 of outstanding receivables. A little less than $300,000 of that was actually assessments, and the other was interest and fees and that sort of thing. We do charge interest. We do, in many cases where we have violators, ARC policy, it includes billings for removal of trash or cutting of grass or whatever it might be, and that's not an insignificant number. Again, it's 82,000 of our total 381,000 of that period of time relates to those non-assessment charges. So, but I also thought it'd be helpful to put it in perspective, and you've heard me speak of this before, and I'm not making a judgment here. The judgment is for you all to make. I'm just providing the information. But we have had $26,235,000 of assessment billings over the last 4 years. The amount outstanding against that $26 million is $299,000, which, as you see, represents 1.1%. Now, that means we've also written off some, and you, pretty interesting there, it tells you what's going on with the national economy as well as with our own situation here in Ocean Pines. is the right-hand side of that particular bottom there, of that page 1. So although we as an association have not historically engaged in foreclosure proceedings, certainly many financial institutions have, but you can see how minimal they are. And so the right-hand column there provides statistical information on the foreclosure and bankruptcy experience related to our outstanding assessments. As recently as the year 2007, we had a total amount of receivables that went into foreclosure bankruptcy of $2,330. And we collected about half of that. Next year, it went up to $15,000. Following year, 2009, $18,000 went into foreclosure or bankruptcy. This year, and this is only as the asterisk suggests, 10 months through February 28th, a total of 32 separate and distinct accounts, you see the parenthetical number, involving a little less than $70,000 in receivables. And that resulted in a collection of $28,000, but a write-off of $41,000. Part of what the recommendation to management is to proceed with something that hasn't been done here in recent times, I don't think, very much, Tom, and that is to engage a bill collector essentially to go after those. So the $41,000 that written off this year, we're just not going to forget about that. We're going to go after those in trying to collect them. So, Marty, you want to? I'll pause right there.
I just want to ask a quick question.
Yeah, sure,
This is important.
Sure.
In that this doesn't tell us that, or at least I'm not seeing it. It just says it lumps foreclosures and bankruptcies together.
Mm-hmm.
Foreclosure has no effect on our debt, other than we can't put a lien on it anymore, a real estate lien. Bankruptcy is bye-bye. That's a write-off. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
How much of it? I'm looking at some of these other sheets that none of them add up. I mean, come back to this.
Mine add up.
They might, but I'm not an accountant, remember? I drive a pickup truck. When I look at these,
You and a certain senator, but go ahead.
it looks like a very small amount of our write-offs is bankruptcy. Very small amount, according
Yeah,
to
I
these.
can't give you the accurate number there, but I think that's
But
right.
I think that's an
right.
important number to break them.
Because we can't collect that.
Can't collect a bankruptcy.
Right,
He's
right.
gone.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And okay, that's good.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay. The review process itself, again, I mentioned that we met on several occasions, on a third occasion on March the 3rd. That's why this got into your packets late on Friday, because we were literally on the 3rd. Bob, I had to excuse myself from the agenda-setting meeting to meet with the attorney and Tom Olson on that particular day, and so therefore, Pete didn't get around to putting the memo together until the following day, so I apologize for that. But in any event, here's what we did. Importantly, I think, is that second paragraph there under the review process. It involved a pretty significant number, 294 member accounts. Some of them were $3.28 and $7.22. Arbitrarily, we simply say, we categorize them into various categories, not arbitrarily, but the dollar amounts of $250. There were 41 of them that had less than $250 outstanding. But the entire computer listing that we dealt with was 294 separate and distinct members with amounts aggregating $408,708. And they ranged from a high of $7,849 to, as I suggest here, 41 accounts that were less than $250. The reason for that, quite frankly, is if you go on and mow somebody's lawn and they may pay their dues, their assessment, but don't pay the $20, $50 fee and so forth. So they send in the check for the whole dues, but don't, so that's why that is where it is. Okay, so what we did was break out that 294 those accounts into various categories, recognizing that those that are already in foreclosure proceedings or bankruptcies, there's not much we can do there. So we didn't want to spend time on those. We also, as a matter of policy, as an association, and certainly we as a committee, certainly want to make a distinction between those who are not responding at all to us and those that may indeed have legitimate circumstances and difficult times, and we don't want to throw them under the bus. We don't want to act, we want to take action only for those that are not working with us. So anybody who is working with us, a payment plan, has called in and said, gosh, I just lost my job, I've had some hospital problems with my wife or my husband. They're working, and there are a number of those who are working with the association to make payments over time. We carved them out. So what we were left with was 161 accounts with balances over $250 and aggregated $242,000. And those are the ones we focused on. And so we, having gotten the estimate from our attorney that it could possibly cost as much as $1,500 per individual here to follow up through foreclosure proceedings, and we felt that what we should do is to proceed, but the computer-generated listing, as I mentioned a moment ago, perhaps I need to clarify, it ranked it from the highest to the lowest. So it was in descending order of amounts. Now, obviously, those that have the higher amounts are those that have the most years in arrears. So by definition, we've got those with the largest are those that owe us 3 years of dues, let's say, and declining from there. So we have determined that following through with the previously established policy of the board to go proceed, management has agreed and has in fact intending to go forward with foreclosure procedures on these accounts, but in a controlled way. You can't do everything at once, and so we're going to go at it with the highest amounts and proceed along those lines. So that's the plan, and obviously the board can interrupt that plan by action that it takes, but absent that interruption by the board, we intend to proceed with this. Now again, it'll come down, and I say that in here, at a certain point in time, it'll have to make a decision with respect to each and every individual account, because there's uncertainty involved here. There's uncertainty as to how much you can recover. There's uncertainty about if the house sells, what's it going to bring? There's uncertainty about how much debt is ahead of us. We know for perhaps the original amount of a mortgage, but we don't have privy to what that current mortgage balance is. Privacy laws today prohibit financial institutions from sharing with people like Ocean Pines what the current outstanding mortgage is. So someone may well have a $200,000 mortgage some time ago. We don't know what that is today. There also could be, and we'll have an opportunity with the other liens perhaps, and maybe a home equity loan. There's great uncertainty here, but we need to take very measured action here to make sure that we don't I'd say spend unwisely our members' assessment dollars. So we want to make sure that the opportunity is there for us to recover and have this be a net win. We're also going to be very sensitive, and I would be hopeful that a number of these people would simply come forward and either pay or, in another event, work with us to pay what they owe us. But I think Marty Clark has said over a period of time that he believes that we ought to, as an association, be more aggressive. And I think that's what that policy established by the previous board recognized. And that's what this particular committee that I've been part of by virtue of being the treasurer has been trying to do. So that's where we are. That's my report. We were unanimous as a committee. Kathy Muncy represented the Budget and Finance Committee in our committee meetings. And that's my report, and I'll be happy to entertain questions on it.
I don't have any real disagreements with what the report says. The only thing I would recommend to Tom is that we be sure that we have an active promotional campaign letting people know that we are willing to work with them. That is, I think, is extremely important in this environment. And I only say that because of another board I sit on. Last month was the largest month in their history of people from Ocean Pines seeking financial assistance. The economy for some folks is not getting better. So we got the report here, we need to get the word out, and that's why I talked earlier about going to the boat clubs, going to letting the folks know that we do have means and we are willing to work with them. And once we've taken all those steps, and I don't have any problems what we do if they don't step up to the plate. But we have to be considerate, as you said, illnesses, unemployment that's popping up, 16% in Worcester County, one of the highest in the state of Maryland. We have to be cognizant of that because we're not going to really get any money out of it if we,
Right.
I think everybody has that same feeling. But at the same time, while we're sitting here talking about it, there are people that owe us 3 years of dues that have got their feet up on their new ottoman watching their 52-inch color television set while paying $160 a month in cable TV. And you know what they're saying about us? They haven't done anything for 3 years. What are they going to do? Put another letter in my box?
Marty, I didn't disagree with you. I'm just saying that we have to make sure that we reach out to where it's necessary and get those individuals who are in fact 3 and 4 years delinquent. I don't have a problem going after them. Okay, I don't have a problem.
I guarantee if it was your money, it would be banging on their door right now.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, this process, according to Resolution F04, is new with all of the steps.
Yeah, this is the first year it's been implemented.
First full year that it's been
Yeah,
implemented.
And I, for one, don't think there's necessary board action to be taken. We're simply implementing the board policy that's already been established.
Well, also, there was a change
I
in
say
the
we being the
law.
management.
There was a change in the law last year that also, in the past, liens only used to last for 3 years. And then, no, it goes now to 7 or 8 years. So if you have put a lien on today, that lien stays for the next 7 or 8 years if it's not paid. Whereas before, it used to be only 3 years, so it's kind of like a revolving door,
Let me comment on that, John, and not to dispute it, I just want to add something to it. We have a policy of refiling lien every year. You know why?
Yeah,
because they owe now another year.
Yes.
And also additional year's interest, and there may be other costs. So we refile the lien each year at a higher amount. So,
But I mean, it used to be if you didn't refile, they went away, and
yeah.
and now that law has changed.
Some other important
You can't hide.
foreclosure procedures are not easy, by the way.
I've been there.
And
It's hard work.
Again, with consumer protection and rights and so forth, the period of time and the legal notifications have lengthened. So the formality is quite a bit different, as I understand it, not being a non-lawyer, from what it's
6
historically
months.
they have been.
Easily.
Yeah, it's a 75-day period for this, it's a 45-day period for this, then you gotta wait another 45 days, then you gotta advertise for so many weeks. And they're
And you know what?
filing fees, and they're,
We've got people that it's taken 3 years because we have failed to do the hard work.
listen, we,
I
by the
think
way,
we're
John.
doing the hard work.
Until we do
To
the hard
bring this-
work, they're here forever.
Oh, I
to
just want,
bring this-
unrelated to this, John reminded me of this,
Okay,
this is a little
sure.
paid advertisement here. On page 10 of the current OP report is a very, not applicable to many people, most people would care less if it's not in there. But you know what? This particular paragraph applies to certain people, of our members, and it's really important, because it says, are you eligible for the homeowner's tax credit?
Yeah.
Ocean Pines has a policy that if anybody who, a member of our association, qualifies under the Maryland program, then they can get relief from their dues assessment increase by virtue of just showing that they have that credit. They don't have to present any financial information to us, just evidence that they qualify for the Maryland program. And so that's an important piece of information for those to whom it may apply. That's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
so
All mine.
great report. Appreciate everything
Thank
this
you.
team's doing. It certainly sounds like we're taking steps that we have not employed
That's exactly right.
in years past. So, that's awesome. Any other questions about this report? Okay, moving on. Mr. Clark,
Yeah, but
you have some motions.
I'm going to start with number 1. I move the Board of Directors authorize and direct our general manager to, as provided for in the Declaration of Restrictions, Articles of Reinstatement, and Resolution F-04, immediately notify and then publish on the association website and at least 2 local newspaper publications the names of any members who have failed to pay or make arrangements to pay their assessments, which are 90 days past due.
Do I have a second or a motion on that?
Isn't that his motion?
He's made a,
I made the motion.
Do I have a
Looking for
second?
we can either have a second or not.
Do I have a second?
No, thank you.
It fails for no second. Beautiful, let's move on. I'm gonna skip number 2, if I may.
Sure.
And go to number 3. I move the Board of Directors authorize the Director or General Manager as provided for in our Declaration of Restrictions, Articles of Reinstatement, and Resolution F-04, immediately notify and then impose a lien against any real estate in a subdivision. Actually, I'm gonna pull that one, because that's done.
That's done, correct.
That's
We've
done.
already done that.
3, I move the Board of Directors authorize and direct the General Manager to, as provided for in our Declaration of Restrictions, Article of Reinstatement, Resolution F-4, immediately notify and then foreclose on said lien when there is enough equity for reasonable expectation for the association to recuperate its assessment as well as the costs associated with the foreclosure action against any real estate in the subdivision that's owned by the delinquent member who has failed to pay or make arrangements to pay their assessments, which are 1 year past due for the assessment.
Okay, that's the motion. Do I have a second?
It's amazing. This is all stuff you've already voted for and approved in F4, but
I think that's the point.
yeah, well, the point is, we've got people that are 3 years now and haven't paid. We have sat on one ex-director who bankrupted us for 10 grand this month. So why don't we just sit on all of them? And by the way, my only last saying on this is, I'm gonna go place a mortgage from my own holding company tomorrow, and I'm not paying my dues. You guys can't do anything, or won't do anything about it. Why should I pay it? It's a cheap loan.
Thanks for the input.
You got it.
Next thing, restaffing of the Golf Advisory Committee.
Before, I know, just on that number 4, didn't that what we just said we were going to do?
Yes.
But we haven't done it.
No, Monty, if this...
Yes, you want to read this? That's what Pete said a year ago.
Yeah, I know, but...
I wasn't here a year ago.
No.
I'm sorry.
Marty.
November
wasn't on the
7th.
board.
November
Oh, time
17th.
out, gentlemen. Time
How
out.
about what
All
Bill
I'm saying-
Rako said
okay.
when he first came on the board?
Time out.
We haven't done anything.
Last year, we made a commitment.
We
to
don't
do what we
have
got,
the guts
and
to
we
do
have-
anything.
Okay, well, then I'm sorry I brought it up. Okay. Move forward.
We good?
And we're fine. We're perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna go back.
I love Marty.
I'm gonna go back to my meeting.
We're going to sailing together.
Restaffing of the Golf I was
I'll be
gonna
able
say
to
my
afford to
list.
buy the
is what
beer.
I
I'm not
said.
paying my assessment.
Okay, we talked about restaffing of the Golf Advisory Committee. We passed had a second reading and did pass the resolution this evening of C11. We have had, which was very exciting, we've had at least, just so everybody knows, we've had at least 22 people apply to be part of the new Golf Advisory Committee, which is pretty phenomenal, especially when years past, we've had challenges because of all the discourse and the concerns and everything else. To have 22 of our residents step up right away and say yes. So I want to make sure the message goes out. Thank you for that. The fortunate thing is we had at least 22 that applied. Unfortunately, we can't take all 22 just because our committees allow for 7 to 9 to fill those slots. So after reviewing the applications, here's a list of the advisory committee recommendations for the new Golf Advisory Committee.
Bob, just to clarify,
Yes.
the process here is that the board president and your
I think I
acting
have. Isn't
president
this?
This one right there.
Okay.
submits to the board committee appointees, and in this case, of course, we're repopulating it from scratch, and so therefore, instead of 1 or 2 members, as acting president, you're submitting to us, as required, a list for our action, for our consent and action. Right?
Correct. These
Okay.
are the folks that I'd like to appoint with your consent.
as provided by the bylaws.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you want to take a second and just review those. The reason I give you a second is usually we only have one,
And
so
maybe
we've got
for the
nine.
public to know that all 20 of these applications were previously provided to the board as part of their board packets. So we've had a chance to go through these and see the people, and so these are not new names to us, they're coming out of the blue, just so you know.
I guess we can provide a copy to the press if they want it.
Once we approve,
Yeah, sure.
that's why I got extra copies.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted,
Okay,
for the record,
sure.
clarify that these are just not names thrown out here, these are,
So without exception, is everyone had a chance to look at them? I need
Yes.
audience participation here.
yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Marty. John? Okay.
It's like my wife, when I ask her a question driving, I'm looking on the road and she nods her head up and down.
I didn't see you
that?
nod. No,
Neither
sir.
do I when I would talk to my wife like that there, but
Okay, so as opposed to reading them one at a time, if no one has any objections, I'd like to say.
You want a motion for me?
No, he doesn't need a
No, he-
I'm
You just
going
consent?
to,
Fine, fine,
I'm
fine,
going to
fine.
appoint all 9 of these members with your consent.
If we agree.
you got my
Yeah,
consent.
yeah,
I agree.
Mike.
Yes?
Fine, good.
Okay, so. be it.
Question,
Too late.
when does the president or you acting president appoint the chairman, or has that been done?
Has not been done yet.
Actually, doesn't the resolution say that the
It doesn't
president of the bog is a chairman? or-
No, that-
No, that's,
leave all that
we
language.
got that out.
No, that's out. That's out. Yeah.
The bog is no longer.
A chair will be needed.
Yes.
A chair will be needed.
Okay, I know it was changed before, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
you-
changed that. Yeah, yeah.
And that's the first.
Like with every other committee, Les, the members are appointed by a process that involves the president of the board with the consent of the
me
board,
have
and that's
What's that?
true of the chairs
Let
as
me have
well.
those
So
names down there.
that has to be worked out.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
don't you have
To
it?
the people, please.
Now, yes, there's list right there.
Here you go.
Now that we have.
May I hand that out?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we pass-
Now that everyone's said they do it, so.
The press is-
Ron, you need a copy?
Already
Here.
got 'em, okay. I already got them ahead of us, so I mean, that's a good press.
Okay,
Do you have your list, don't you?
that's the list I have now, John. I think I've passed them all out.
So we
Yes,
unanimously
approved it.
consented to the.
read them for the
I think that's the right.
Oh, you'd like me to, I can do them real
Yeah,
quick.
for the record,
Sure.
for the
For the record. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Jim Phipps, Mr. Tim Halligan, Mr. Bill Hickey,
With an E in there.
Mr. Frank Rufo, Mr. Bob Kessler,
Oh, no.
Mary McCarthy, Ms. Susan Petito, Mr. Jim Revel, Mr. Joe Lynch. Now, if I've misspelled any of these names, then I know I've done
Hickey has
at
an
least one.
E in it, just for the record, okay?
Okay, that was, I
H-I-C-K-E-Y.
was trying to get it typed up so it wasn't handwritten just before the meeting, okay? So everybody knows that. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, now, with that being said, I just want to make sure I go over just a couple things with that particular committee. With our resolution, Golf Advisory, C11 Golf Advisory Committee, we have A, B, C, D, E, and F, because I had a question, well, now that we're reforming this, what are their tasks? Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone understands, we have the resolution, it's in place, that's what the committee will follow. The one item here does allow performing other, items F, performing other duties as assigned by the Board of Directors, okay? As you're all aware, the board approved last month to have an outside management companies come in to do a presentation.
2, right?
Yes,
And we got
outside
a-
management
And
companies.
we also got a third one.
Well, let me finish, to come in and do a presentation.
Right.
I would like the board, this new advisory committee, to be present when those management companies come in. I think it's appropriate to have them. So I'm putting it on record so everybody knows, I want to make sure not only do they know they're assigned, and we appreciate that, but one of their first tasks is to attend that meeting.
And I think, Bob, for the record, if we could all indicate our support of that, it would be helpful. So, not necessary, but helpful.
Okay, anybody?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay. And then all right, so we've got that set up. We have 2 companies that we've spoken to so far, we being you, Tom, Kemper and RDC. And recently we received from Casper Golf, we all saw
Billy
that.
Casper.
So I would like to ask
Yeah.
you,
I've
Tom,
heard good things about them.
I'd like to ask you to coordinate to have, set a time to have all three of those
Right.
companies. That way we have, since we've had three unsolicited, let's bring, if everyone's okay with it, let's bring three in. And let's have them come and do a presentation of what they feel.
How long would a presentation like that take?
I'm
45
probably
minutes to 3 hours apiece.
limiting,
We ought to
the-
determine-
limiting the
I tell you-
presentation.
I agree with John, not 3 hours, but yeah, it could be.
3 hours.
I would
It'd
like
be
to
3
suggest-
hours if this board's.
I'd like to
in charge of it.
suggest a 1 hour with each firm, set
Yeah,
aside a
that's-
morning or an afternoon or something, an
That's
hour
fine.
for each. We could have maybe half-hour presentation, half-hour question, something like that for each of the three. A little
Okay,
break
the
in between.
presentation's not to exceed an hour, preferably.
Well, keep the
Well,
presentation.
Be a
up
little
so we can have
flexible, they
Q&A.
might all say it
That's fine.
takes two.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, is everybody okay with that? What I don't want to do is
Tom?
assign a committee and do nothing with it.
No.
That's just not going to happen. Yes, sir.
I'm just right, Tom. Did you acknowledge that receipt from Casper?
No, not yet. I'll call him tomorrow.
I'm not sure we've acknowledged a receipt from Gulf Profit Builders from last August.
We have now.
We have now?
Sure, because we made the motion last month.
Okay, well, we had.
You mean contact with them?
I've
He's
had
had contact.
yeah, I've
Okay.
certainly
Yeah,
had
yeah.
contact with them.
Well, what I found interesting was how Casper suddenly came in, because we really hadn't announced this to
Well,
anybody.
they read it in the press, they said.
Yeah, I know.
Kemper does good things
Kemper
all the
called
time.
without
Yeah,
anybody reaching out to him.
that's true, too.
So
That's what he said.
we now
It's all
have
in
three, so I'd like you to set that up.
They scan for that kind of stuff, you know, they're looking for.
Would you guys like to do it along our next meeting? Board meeting is the 14th, if I'm not mistaken. April 14th. Can anybody confirm that? No. Would you like to combine it with our next board meeting, or would you like to do a special meeting?
I think you could, because of the length of time, and because you gotta
dear
bring them
God,
in
yeah.
separately,
That's
you
fine.
you don't want them in the same room at the same
Well,
time.
they know each other.
Well, I'm just, yeah, but you're talking about,
Not at the same room at the same time.
We can schedule, no, accordingly, but how would you guys like to do it? Because it is, you know,
you may have to do it on
You
3
know-
separate days or 2
No.
separate
Oh,
days.
gosh.
Well, you can
no,
do it
no,
one
no,
day.
No.
I brought in multiple companies.
Absolutely.
Well,
I've done the
I
same
mean, I'm
thing.
just
Yeah, yeah.
saying.
No,
Absolutely.
same day.
No, same day, thank you.
That way it's fresh, we know, we, same
Right, right,
questions,
right.
we can get the feel
I
immediately.
don't,
If that's all right.
If our next agenda is a late agenda, God forbid,
It's a 6:30 meeting.
it's a 6:30, is it? Then it won't work. Unless
could
we
do
did it in the
We can do it in
afternoon.
the afternoon.
Yeah,
Take a break for
why not?
dinner and then
Yeah.
come back for our meeting.
Hey,
Let's
maybe
do
we
that.
could even have it in the community center.
We could.
Okay, so if everyone's
Why don't we
okay,
do that?
let's do a special
Yeah.
meeting prior
No,
to,
the time, have it in the afternoon.
prior to the
And
next
then we
board
can have a
meeting.
little break and
Is that okay, Les?
then,
John?
I probably won't be here anyway. I'm traveling.
Okay, well,
I'm easy.
that's all right, just go with whatever we say, that works.
These are closed meetings, is that correct?
They should.
It would be a closed meeting, yes. Because it's some
We would-
contractual
it's a good- yeah.
issues, if any dollar figures came up until we've decided to do anything. But I would like to make sure the
there's
golf
also a
advisory
competitive
committee-
advantage, disadvantage kind
Yeah.
of aspect here too. It's, yeah, we're contemplating and having discussion about a potential contract, right?
Sure.
With each one of
Yeah.
the three, so.
So
it falls
closed
under that,
meeting,
yeah.
but we're going to include the newly formed golf advisory committee.
Right,
Okay?
good.
Everybody good with that? And the upside of doing it at our next board meeting, it should have been on all our calendars anyway.
Exactly.
Don't agree so much. It's not going to look good. It's better when we disagree. I'm just messing, Pete. It's
I'm really
late.
restrained during
We're
Lent,
moving,
so.
we're moving quick. This is good. I did see in our
Maybe
board
we should give it a
packet,
breakup.
one more thing in our board packet. I don't know if you all saw it. I saw another committee assignment.
Yep.
For the clubs.
Yes.
But I did not see, can anybody give me any information on this?
I don't know.
I don't mind making the appointment, but I got challenged
Well,
with,
no, first of all, the committee chair is supposed to have
well, that's
interviewed
what I was
this
going to say.
person.
It's not, I don't have any of those signatures. I don't know if
Then I don't
anybody
think you
else
can
does.
act. You can't act until the committee chair has bought off on it.
You know
I
anything?
thought, this is for the clubs committee, right?
Correct.
See, part of the
And I do
problem is
believe-
Phyllis is
And I
out.
do believe that Bill did
Check.
talk to Bill on this, and they were both in agreement.
Do we know that for a fact?
I'm pretty sure it's factual.
Why don't we leave it this way, Bob? Why don't we consent, because that's what we do, provided that that discussion has been held with the committee chair. If that has happened, then you have the consent to proceed with that.
Everybody okay with
Otherwise,
that, Marty?
no.
No,
Fair enough.
Mary Ann, I'm sure is.
Okay, works for me. All right. Anybody else have anything they want to add? That's our agenda. Okay, public comments. Do we have any additional public comments?
Or from the press.
Well, I'm not there yet. Public comments. Yes, sir.
Jim Mills, 06344. Just for your information, Marty ought to know this, but Billy Casper was associated with this golf course in the beginning. Back in 1972, he and Dean Beeman played a 9-round match at this golf course. So I don't know what his association was other than his name, but he also was given a condo on the 10th green. So
Wow.
He was actually, I was told recently, had been the golf pro.
I think it was.
I know, it was an honorary kind of thing, but he was officially associated with the Ocean Pines Golf Course
just like
from its
golf.
inception. Right.
Exactly.
But
And did,
that was Boise buying.
I
mean,
know,
that's why
I
Johnny
know.
Unitas had a house here.
Tom Matty. Tom Matty.
Unitas had Unitas.
Okay.
Tom Matty was
Sea
the-
Colony's traveling pro was Jimmy Connors.
All right, appreciate that input, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else, any other
Thanks.
comments
That
from
is going back.
public?
You don't have
Public
no
or
problem.
press?
Public.
Yes, sir.
By the way, Tom Matty built that house. He paid for it. He didn't.
Your name, sir?
Joe Reynolds.
And he's speaking on behalf of Tom Matty.
Now, if I could just go back in history a little bit to tell you a quick story, don't count this against my time, but you'll appreciate it.
Oh, it's counting. Oh, it's
Tom Matty
ticking.
built that
Haven't
house.
eaten dinner yet.
Tom Matty built that house. He just sort of lent his name to a group that was trying to build and sell homes in Ocean Pines. So his brother came down to be the salesman and to stay in the house while he was selling homes. Well, number one, they never sold a house. And I came down one time, and I happen to know the people that were associated with Matty building homes. And they stopped at the main gate where they had the guards there. And the guy said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going down to the Matty house." And the guard said, "What, another party there tonight?" Well, Tom Matty's brother was having, they wrecked the furniture. Donahue's had to sue for the furniture that was in the house. It was a mess. But anyway, never sold a house.
This time.
Public comments up, sir. Go ahead.
Now comments from the press.
Back to a few not so major and relatively minor nitpicks, I guess. Pete, on the use of the hall. You don't need the general manager's permission to use the hall. You might need him to help schedule the use. But the use of the hall, I'll tell you, the use of the hall is protected under the Maryland Homeowners Association Act in that members of the association have the right to use the meeting facilities of the association to have meetings to discuss association business. That's protected under the act. Nitpick.
I'm not sure what you're nitpicking.
You made a comment that if they wanted to use the hall, they would have to talk to Tom Olson to get his
Oh,
permission.
no, I
They
didn't
don't
mean that.
need his
No.
permission, they just need him to help schedule.
You know what, point taken.
I had
Next
no, I
time.
didn't say any such thing.
Good. Next
There's
issue.
no such thing.
Pete,
No,
that's a minor
that's-
point, that's okay. Pete also mentioned about how important it might be for people on the Maryland program for abatement. That might save them, if they were lucky, $1 a week,
$45.
$45.
You're right, $1 a week.
But they still have to go back and pay them. But I'll guarantee, as Marty said, they're home watching their cable television. The quarterly reports, I think that's an excellent idea, and I think what got lost in the transition and all the discussion, this idea that Bob brought up, which I think is excellent, is the idea of doing a test. If we could do a test of something, just one time, and see if and if we're gonna save $14,000, we know by doing the test. So we do the test, we send it out, and we put a card or something in it, and we say, we're not gonna get this, you're not gonna get this anymore, unless you put the card back in the mail that comes back to us and says you want it mailed, you aren't gonna get this anymore. Now, if they want it, they'll put the card in the mail. So I think it's worth considering. And probably something on the order of 95% or more of our membership is probably online on the is my guess. Very high percentage. John, you mentioned people from Ocean Pines, going, a number of people seeking financial assistance. What you didn't clarify, though, was, and I think it's extremely important, do you know how many of those people are renters as opposed to owners? You don't. My guess is that a very high percentage of them are renters. My guess. So I don't want to leave the impression from your comment that people in Ocean Pines in general, our homeowner association members, are in such deep financial trouble that a large, growing number of our members are seeking financial assistance, because I don't think that's the case. Finally, you made a comment in talking about promotion. You said, and you were kind of put an exclamation mark on this of surprise. You said, we're not even on Facebook. Well, I got news for you. We're not even on oceanpinesforum.com, where we have over 4,000 of our association members registered, and I don't know how many coming in, looking at that, and the association can put up notices about meetings, can put up anything they want, as a practical matter,
Actually, what I
and
did
they
say,
don't take advantage of it.
I said the Aquatics is on Facebook.
Pardon?
Aquatics is on Facebook.
I'm sorry.
Aquatics
Is what?
is on Facebook.
Aquatics.
You're missing my point.
I get your point, but I,
Facebook has 10 million members, of whom I don't know how many people, Ocean Pines homeowners, are looking on Facebook for information. But I'll guarantee you, quite a few of them are looking on oceanpinesforum.com, and I have a personal interest in that, of course. But it doesn't cost the association anything to get out to those people, but they don't take advantage of it. They can put up features, they can put up news releases, they can put up messages notifying people. Doesn't cost a nickel. But anyway, that's all. Thank you.
You're gonna pay for that advertisement? Just asking.
No,
I'm messing.
I'm offering free advertising.
You know I'm
Ocean
messing.
Pines.
You know I'm messing. Any other comments? Anything from the press? No? Do I have a motion to
Yes.
adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great